People at the door. Come. Thank you. So now we're going into the next half of the morning. Okay. See where this is going.
Hey.
Test.
Yeah, but this one, yeah.
So now we start the next half of the morning.
Hello. Yeah.
We have 3 more wonderful presentations. We can all lower our voices a little bit, please. So next presentation is by Nuria. You know Nuria, symposium. Always a smile, always the warmth. It was really like the water of the symposium. Always for a hugs. But Nuria is also a really inspiring woman to me. What she really accomplishes with her organization Habitarmonia is establish an environment, a learning course, an ecosystem. She likes to say, in order to gather people and bring them first back to themselves. It's like we have all this knowledge, and then it's like our whole head is all full. In order to get to your real design intuition, you first need to connect with yourself. So if I missed anything in terms of titles, like she's also a great interior architect, and please work with her. But I'll let her do the rest of the talk before I give too much away. Big applause from her.
Thank you, Michael. All right. I'm going to say something before I take you into the body of this talk today. I want to show you the ground I am standing on. And it is not just one ground. And it is not one kind of knowing. Some of what shaped me is science, yes, measured, tested, replicated. Some of it is the language of the nervous system, of trauma. Trauma held, released. And some of it is older than science. Questions about consciousness, questions about meaning, questions about the patterns that seem to organize life itself. And I do not weigh these as equals. That would not be honest. But I hold them as instruments in the same orchestra. But I hold them by playing toward the same question. We've been talking about mind, body, space. This is a mind, body, space symposium. The question is, what is the body really? What is belief? What is perception? How does life organize itself when no one is forcing it to? And what changes when we stop treating the human being as a machine to calibrate and start treating it as a living, listening thing? That is the ground beneath everything I am about to say. And there's another current running underneath this work, just as important to me. The current of design practice itself. The research behind design, biophilic design, the frameworks that let us bring nature back into the buildings responsibly, but also the older wisdom. The reminder that nature was never a tip, never a style, never a mood board. Nature is about relationship. Land is relationship. Place is relationship. And what I want to hold that carefully right now, especially when I'm learning from indigenous wisdom and land-based voices. Not to romanticize it, not to borrow the words as decoration for mine, but to let them ask the question modern design keeps avoiding. What would we build if we remembered nothing here is separate from anything else? So let's begin before language arrives, before we have theory and framework, before the part of the mind that wants to understand everything before it has finished happening. I've asked this a few times. What do you feel right now? And again, let's all breathe in or 4. Keep it slowly. Breathe out. What do you feel right now? And not what do you think, but what do you feel? Maybe fit in the chair, holding more of your weight than you noticed. Maybe it's the light, doing something quiet in the room. Maybe it's your breath, your shoulders, the pulse in your chest on the one on the stranger, or not anymore stranger, sitting close to you, to sense the body. Just notice that. Don't go in your head, just notice that. Don't fix it. Because this isn't separate from design. This is what we're going to talk about. This is where design begins. And now, from that place, I want to say something plainly. You don't need more reasons to care. We have heard the science throughout the entire week. We have had amazing presentations, all this depth and all these inspirational case studies as well. We have sat through the frameworks. We have been shown the evidence, slide after slide, day after day. And yes, the evidence keeps evolving, and it always will. Thankfully, of course. But we already know enough to begin. Enough to stop deciding as though space is very neutral. Enough to stop treating health as something that only happens inside the skin. So the real question was never, do we have every answer? Mm-mm. The real question is, do we have courage to design differently? So let me make this very human. When did you last lie down on grass and feel your whole body loosen to grip? When did you last walk beneath trees and notice your breath change its rhythms without your permission? When was that? Did you get the chance to do that this week? I hope you did. When did you last stand at the edge of the sea, feet in cold pool of it, and feel something new quietly come home? That moment, did anyone need to explain to you that that something was happening at that moment? I don't think so. But your body already was. And this is where life-centered design begins. Not with decoration, not with trend, not with the nature added at the end, like garnish, an extra plant and an extra color, with a truth simple enough to hold in one hand. Space becomes real to the body. And that knowing isn't poetic. Every environment design touches the nervous system, not in theory, not as a lovely idea to nod along to. It touches the body directly, immediately. It's shaping health, it's shaping attention, It shapes behavior, emotion, the way we hold each other, don't, the way we feel safe, or the way we brace quietly without knowing why, the way we belong, or the way we learn cell by cell that we don't. And slowly, very slowly, it shapes our relationships with the planet itself. So the body is not a metaphor here. The body is where all of these lands. It's where the light lands, where the sun, where the stress, where beauty, care lands. So when we design a space, we're never only designing a space. We're designing an experience that someone's body has no choice but to live inside. And there's a story that has been following me because it holds this tension so clearly. Did you ever heard about him? Yeah? Okay. So for those who don't know, this is Brian Johnson, the technology entrepreneur who has poured extraordinary resources into measuring and optimizing his own body. And recently, he shared something vulnerable, an autoimmune condition in his stomach that had been quietly present undetected for years, for many years, for 11 years. And not telling is to criticize him, nothing else. And I'm certainly not telling you this to criticize science. Because I already said that. We need science. We need that data. We have had all the week this conversation. We need also reassurance. But it reminds us of something easy to forget. And I will keep on saying that the body is the living system. And a living system doesn't only respond to interventions, it responds to conditions. So if we want to design for health, we can't only ask, what can we measure? You have to ask just as seriously, what conditions are we creating? And this is why I resist the idea that biophilic design is simply nature brought indoors. We know that it's not that. Our bodies evolve in relationship with light, air, the rhythm, with weather, movement, texture, sound, and more things. With water, with plants, with seasons, with the cosmos, with the beauty. So when we build spaces without daylight, without moving air, without variation for the senses, without any beauty at all, we are not creating neutral environments. We're asking the body to live far from the only conditions it has ever understood. Body adapts. The way bodies always adapt to what they cannot scale. By going tense, by going stressed, tired, hyper alert, numb. The feeling sign is the language that tells the nervous system in a something happened. See, we have the sun. Feeling the sun is the language that tells the nervous system in a dialect older than words. You are safe here. You can breathe here, and you still belong here. There is also another reason why this matters. Environments don't only surround us, they are entering us through the breath, through the skin, through the eyes, before the mind has caught up. Through sound, through the small tightening of a muscle, through stress, through safety, through belonging, through the quiet violence of exclusion. Our biology is listening long before our thinking mind has displayed or heard. Which means design is never neutral. We heard about that the whole week. We know that. Yeah. Housing is not neutral. The schools are not neutral. There are no spaces between, and every one of them sends a signal into the body, and those signals do not disappear. I'm saying it again, they do not disappear, they accumulate. And I want to widen the lens here carefully. When I say environments enter the body, I don't only mean rooms. I also mean systems, policy, access, safety, belonging, chronic low-grade threat. We see this most painfully in maternal health. I don't know if you know this case, but in the United States, Black women are still far more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, and the months that follow that than white women. And she talked about it yesterday. What is the epigenetics doing to us? And I want to say this precisely. This is not because Black women's bodies are somehow biologically weaker. It's nothing to do with that. This is not racist biology. No, this is racism becoming biology. I'm saying it now. This is society entering the body, staying there. The public health researcher Arlene Geronimus calls this exact thing weathering. The cumulative biological cost of living inside chronic stress, racism, and structural disadvantage. The body carries the trace of every condition it has had to survive. Over years, those traces become a debt the body pays in silence. Now, let's widen it once more. The inner world becomes behavior. Behavior becomes culture. Culture becomes systems. Systems become buildings. Buildings become cities. And cities become emissions, heat, pollution, waste. Yeah, then the earth system responds. Climate change comes back to us as heat stress. We have been suffering of this the last months, weeks, as anxiety, as sleepless nights, as breath that touches where it never used to, as pressure on families, as pressure on the nervous system, over and over and over and over again without rest. So cute. So goodbye. So climate change is not only a planetary crisis, it is also a body crisis, a nervous system crisis, playing it out in 8 billion chests at once. What we design outward eventually returns inward. The planet is only reflecting back to us the systems we choose to build. So this is the turning point for me. All the fields we are speaking about today, science of place, the body, behavior, nature, health, and human experience, are not simply interesting areas of research. They're not just acknowledged to collect. They are a responsibility. Because once we understand that environments shape the nervous system, once we understand that species affect health, behavior, belonging, and even our relationship with the planet, we cannot unknow it. So the question is no longer only, do we have enough evidence? The deeper question is, are we willing to design as the human and ecological life truly matter? That exactly. That is a very deep question. And it asks something different of us. It asks for a different kind of designer. And I want to be honest with you here. Many people come to this work looking for a quick fix. They think like, okay, a checklist, the method, the matrix, the formula that says, if I do this, this, and this, and that, the space will become healthy. But designing for life does not work like that. It is evidence informed. We need research. We need the science. We need patterns, frameworks, tools. However, we cannot reduce a living space to a formula. It's not as simple as adding plants, as putting daylight to suddenly make a space healing. No, it's more subtle, much more subtle than that. It's more contextual than that. It's more alive than that. Because every place has its own story. Every person brings a different body, a different story. Look at all of us. How many countries are we here together? How many cultures? And a different nervous system. So a different way of feeling safe, being inspired, restored, at home. So this work requires more than a checklist. It is asking us to listen. Again, listen to the body, listen to the place, to the land, to the climate, to culture, to the materials, to the rhythms of daily life, and to the people who will live in what we create. That is why this is not just evidence-based design. It is evidence-informed, life-centered practice, because science can guide us, but listening is what allows us to design well. And when design is understood this way, the role of the designer changes with it. We need to stop shrinking this work down to a surface profession. Yes, don't get me wrong, beauty matters. Of course, beauty matters. Beauty is one of the ways this work reaches the body at all. But beauty was never the end of the work. So we get to ask better questions. Not only, how do I sell this? How do I convince someone? But also, what am I actually here to change? What kind of health supporting? What kind of culture am I quietly feeding? What relationship with life am I making visible or invisible through this room? From stylist to steward, from decorator to health creator, from service provider to cultural leader, from how do I sell this to how do I make this impossible to ignore? But there is one more place we have to look, not at the project and not at the client and not at the material, but at the person designing. Because you cannot design belonging if you don't know how, if you don't know your body and where your body belongs. You cannot design for life if you're not listening to the life still moving in you. And you cannot build a regenerative space from an extractive nervous system. And this is not about guilt, no, don't get me wrong. It's about parents. And we just design from urgency, depletion, disconnection, control. That state does not stay outside the work. It enters. Perhaps the first sight of regeneration was never the building. Perhaps it was the person designing it. This first material is not wood or clay, concrete. The first material is attention, perception, presence, the nervous system of the one open pencil of the designer. And this is a question we've been living inside at our Habitarmonia Academy, for example. Not the biophilic design as a style, not as a nature as a decorative layer, but biophilic design as a way of retraining perception itself, remembering who we are. In our transformational well-being design program, our people, our trainees, usually arrive looking for tools. They arrive coming for evidence, for confidence, for structure. And yes, we will give all that. But what moves me most is what they say by the end of this program. And believe me, this is why I created this course. They say, I cannot see my environment in another way. This I see different than before. I feel more at home in my own body. I finally have a thread connecting my knowledge, my story, and my purpose. And one student described the shift in a very beautiful way. Not designing spaces that tell people to relax, but building conditions where the body remembers how it's on. That matters. Because design education was never only the transfer of knowledge. It is a transformation of perception. And when perception changes, design changes with it. When the designer becomes more awake, the space they make becomes more alive. And this is why, for me, the designer is design. And over time, this became a model. It is called the Flourish Tree Model. Flourish Model. It's what we use at Habitarmonia Academy to help designers move past surface decisions into the deeper questions of life, belonging, health, place. Because a tree doesn't begin with its leaves. It begins, and design should begin the same way. We don't start with the finishes, we start with the field. We don't start with aesthetics. We start with relationship. We don't start with consumption. We start by asking what life actually needs here in this place. And the model holds 6 layers. Okay, there. We have mycelium, soil, roots, branches, and leaves. And each one asks much deeper questions long before we ever choose a material. This is why I keep saying it. Leaves with no roots are decoration. Plants are beautiful. I love plants. But plants were never the work. A space with lovely leaves and no roots can look impressive and still feel hollow. And the moment you sit inside it long enough to notice, you will start feeling it. Because when the roots are missing, the relationship is missing. Listening is missing. The deeper questions were never asked. But a space built outward from its roots becomes something else entirely. It becomes coherent, it becomes nourishing and alive. And step back far enough, go high enough, and the pattern becomes very visible. You see the body, you see the room, the building, the city, planet, cosmos. Not because everything is the same, but because life is relational. And yes, everything is one, all the way down. We find the same branching, the same flow, rhythm, textures, complexity, and order in neurons. Oh, you know the work about Richard Taylor? Trees, rivers, roots, lands, leaves, and coastlines. The same intelligence echoing itself at every scale it can reach. Today, most of those scales are showing symptoms. The body is showing symptoms. The room is showing symptoms. The workplace is showing symptoms. So as the city, planet, which is showing symptoms. And these are not separate crises scattered across separate worlds. They are one pattern repeating itself at every scale it touches. And the designer is always working somewhere inside that field, whether they know it or not. So I want I want to leave you with this question. And don't answer them loud. Just notice where they land in you. You can do it later. What is the living field I am entering in? What does this body need? And what relationships are quietly asking to be restored here? What state is my own inner world in as I shape something someone else will have no choice but to live inside? Every single room you design sends a signal out in the world. Every single room you design sends a signal out in the world and into the future. Rooms don't wait for us to be ready. They make us exactly as we are, and they pass something forward into the bodies that they enter them, into the communities that gather inside them, into the culture we keep building one room at a time, whether we mean to or not. Buildings don't have to be sources of harm. They can become some of our strongest instruments for healing. Every space, every single space is a seed. Whatever grows next will grow from what we plant now. So the designer is the design. I want to leave you here with some sources of inspiration that I have been reading the last years, which are, I hope that you can at least read a few of them, and I hope you have already read a few of them, which have blown my mind throughout these years. So just get inspired by getting some of those books. And I just want to say thank you. You have here a link to some of my services.
Yes. Um, so we have on time, unfortunately, for size question. There's
Uh, uh, Say it this time.
there.
Wonderful presentation. Thank you. My only question would be, how is it? Like, what was the journey that you went on personally that got you to this point? Thank you for that question. Well, it's been a journey of breakdown after breakdown and healing after healing that started already many years ago. And nature was one of my healing powers, but understanding who I am, where I'm coming from, what I'm doing here, and learning and getting rid of many of the patterns and of the masks that we have been being created by society. All these masks that we are putting on us, and they're making that we are not the pure ourselves. So when Julio was saying like I got this epiphany, I got also an epiphany by getting rid of all these masks. It's a matter of healing. And when you heal, you reconnect to yourself, to your body. And when you start connecting to that, start connecting to what is around you, you start connecting to the source, you start connecting to everything. And from that energy, what I believe, that energy, we can move many things. So, yeah, thank you. Always resilience. Yes,
Still,
that was moving. Do you find that you or we all need to teach architects how to become more aware? Do you think that something that we could put in our pedagogy? Great question. Well, I have noticed this week. I've been all the week inside. My brain doesn't work when I'm inside. I'm used to be outside, to be connected to nature. I have my daily rituals, like going nature and meditating and all that. And those were like kind of rituals which I implemented in my life. And that doesn't come. But that's not there. Then you start to miss that, and your body starts to feel the rooms. You start to get another energy. So I have felt that this week at a certain moment, I was like, I'm going to crash. I couldn't even talk. It's like, there is nothing can be this. So one thing is take care of ourselves. Make sure that we do a lot of embodiment work, that we connect in and we go in nature. It's simple as that. But we're so busy that we forget that. And days pass by, and then we start to feel that. We start to get the stress. We start to feel that everything in ourselves. Remember what Sarah said as well this week. Remember the answer that she gave to one of the questions from the panel. It's like, get your kids outside. Let them be in nature, play in nature, be curious, be wild. There are so many benefits. We know the benefits: the soil, the light, the green, or the greenery, water. Very simple. Let's do that. Let's just do that. Let's create those spaces. Oh, yeah. Thank you.